So many women I know are constipated. It's like an epidemic at this point. And trust me, I get it. As a woman who has mixed IBS herself, I really do get it. But it's not just like general constipation or even IBS constipation. There's also a hormonal layer added to it. If you're a woman, you might notice that a week before your period or the 2 weeks before your period, things might be moving much more slowly. And then right before the period, it flips the other way and everything moves really fast. You know what I'm talking about? And there's actually a physiological reason behind this. And in today's video, I want to get into the physiology of why things slow down when we are in our luteal phase, which is the 1 to 2 weeks before our period starts. I'm not going to get too much into what happens when it flips to diarrhea. That's not what this video is about, but I want to talk about how we can support ourselves to keep things moving during that luteal phase right before your period. So first, I'll get into the physiology of it, and then I will hopefully, after explaining the physiology, I'll then go through some of the basic principles that I use to support constipation in my luteal phase and how I would recommend it to a patient. And I'll try to explain it to you in such a way that you don't think that you're trying to hack your body, biohack your body, but I want to explain the underlying physiology to you in such a way that you know that when you do this thing, here is how you are supporting your physiology. Not to be like, oh, throw 30 grams of fiber at yourself once daily and you must poop. Like, not like that. I'll try to gently dish it out to you so that you can see why each aspect is important and how each of them builds on each other and how it can really help you with your constipation. So the first thing, why do you get constipated right before your period? Now, the luteal phase is 2 weeks before your period. This happens after you ovulate. Your ovary releases an egg, and then your ovary starts to produce progesterone. Progesterone is produced in this second half of your menstrual cycle called the luteal phase, produced by the corpus luteum, which is on the ovary. So your corpus luteum is making you progesterone in your luteal phase. This hormone, progesterone, it actually is the same hormone that we use to maintain pregnancy. Progesterone means progestation, actually, but it's more than just that. It's more than just a pregnancy hormone because obviously you're getting progesterone every single month and you're not pregnant every single month. But one of the big things that leads to constipation is the production of progesterone. Progesterone actually causes smooth muscle relaxation. And where do we have smooth muscle? Well, pretty much everywhere. But an important place that we have smooth muscle is in the lining of our entire gastrointestinal tract. So your esophagus, stomach, intestines, all the way out to your anus is lined with smooth muscle, and progesterone causes that to relax. Now, how you generally get stuff to move from your mouth to your anus is through a process called peristalsis, where like the smooth muscle contracts in one area, then relaxes in another, then contracts and relaxes and contracts, and you get the point. It's supposed to go forward with peristalsis. When you have smooth muscle relaxation, the peristalsis is kind of hindered, and so things move through much more slowly. So when you are in the luteal phase of your menstrual cycle and you're producing more progesterone, you can expect that things will move much more slowly, which might look like being constipated, not being as regular as you normally would. So, and if you add that to like regular constipation, just like you not going at all, then being in your luteal phase can make that just so much worse. So how do we then support this? How do we get things moving? What do we do? I wrote notes, so I'm gonna say them in the order in which I wrote them down. And the first one is going to be very obvious, like you already know this. I'm not telling you anything new, and it's going to be fiber. Fiber will be very important, but I'm going to be specific about the type of fiber. So if you have IBS or you suspect that you might have some small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, I want you to be careful about what kind of fiber supplementation you're doing. So I want you to, if there's any form of SIBO at all, you probably need to avoid prebiotic fiber. You might need to go for more insoluble forms of fiber and fiber from whole foods. So like from vegetables, beans, not too much now with the IBS and SIBO, not too much, but whole food forms of fiber, a meal with enough bulk in it, not just fiber that's processed down to this liquid that you then mix into water. Less of that can get fermented by the bacteria in your gut, and more like food, right? So when you're having a meal, make sure the meal is literally bulky and fibrous. And if you're going to do vegetables, make sure that as you're getting closer to your period, you're doing more warm, cooked vegetables, not necessarily raw vegetables, especially if you have IBS. If you have IBS, you know that raw veg, like salads, is not. I found that out the hard way. Have IBS and you're gonna try to have a salad, you're gonna have a rough time unless you chew that so very slowly. It's gonna make you so gassy and bloated. So just be careful about the type of fiber that you choose and be intentional about it. Don't try to go supplementing a bunch of prebiotic fiber like inulin or maybe even psyllium, because what can happen is that can make you more constipated in the first place. It can make you more constipated, especially if you're in your luteal phase. So what you need is literally more bulk, and especially more bulk from your meals. So you need your intestines to expand so much that things will move along. If you're supplementing with prebiotic fiber, I don't know, I find that it causes more fermentation. And if you don't know what I mean by fermentation, you'll be constipated, you'll be gassy, you'll be bloated, and things won't smell right. Okay, that's not the effect that you want from supplementing fiber. When you supplement fiber, you want things to move along. So be careful with supplementing fiber in your luteal phase and try to focus more on getting a more bulky meal. So more veg, more beans, more whole food forms of fiber in your meals. At least one meal a day with a good amount of fiber, or spread it throughout the day so that you're getting a good amount of fiber in each meal. So be very intentional. I hope you're not hearing that, like, I really don't want to edit this video, so I don't want to edit out the sound. Anyway, moving on. That was a car. Brian just came home. So be intentional about how you're going to get your fiber each day. Don't just say, okay, I'll supplement, because often that might, especially if you're just starting to supplement and you're like, okay, I'm constipated, let me just start taking more psyllium in my luteal phase. That might cause you to be more constipated in the first place, especially if you start when your progesterone levels are high. Things will just get fermented and just not move along. So be as intentional as you can, and then slowly start to add more fiber to get things moving. So yeah, of course you already knew that, fiber, but you will have to experiment with your own fiber needs and how much you can have and what forms you should have it in order to get enough to stimulate a bowel movement. The next thing I want to talk about is having regular meals. Now I'm going to reference my previous video, I did on a somatic, the nervous system shift, or like somatic practice that helped me to improve my digestion. And what I spoke about in that video is just that I had the capacity to feel my hunger cues more, and as a result I was eating more often, I was eating more regularly. If you're constipated, you cannot be skipping your meals. Okay, you can't be just skipping your meals. I don't think you should be snacking in between either, and I will explain that to you a little bit further, but you must be having regular meals. I want to say every 3 to 4 hours, or 4 to 5 if you want to stretch it that long, but you need to be having regular meals. And if you're having regular meals with fiber in there, that will give you enough bulk and enough of a signal to tell your body, hey, it's time to move this through. Of course, this is assuming that you have a working enough GI system that you can accept fiber, because if you have IBD or even very severe IBS, then you do have to be careful with the amount and the forms of fiber that you consume. Or if you have any other GI issue that makes you unable to consume certain foods, then you do have to be careful about how you put your food together. So take all of that into consideration. I'm just giving you general frameworks and a general principle here. But it's really important to have regular meals if you want to alleviate constipation. There's this thing called the migrating motor complex. It is, remember I was talking about peristalsis earlier. It starts from the mouth, and the smooth muscle relaxes and contracts in order to move the bolus of food from your mouth down to your stomach. Then it's like, what do you call that when it's in your stomach? Chime? It's making all the peristaltic waves to begin digestion in the stomach. And then it's passing the food along the intestines, eventually until it gets out through the anus. The migrating motor complex is this long, sweeping peristaltic wave that starts from your mouth and ends in your anus. It sweeps all the way through, and it takes about 4 hours to be completed. As soon as you begin to chew again and have a meal, it restarts from your mouth, then to your anus. So that's why I'd recommend not to snack actually in between your meals, because you want that long peristaltic wave to go from your mouth straight to your anus without interruption if you want to alleviate constipation, right? So then the next thing is that in 4 hours, you want to give your body the stimulus again to be like, hey, we're eating. And so you eat, you start chewing, it starts over. And then this is why some people, after they have a meal, they immediately feel the urge to evacuate their bowels, because the migrating motor complex has restarted. And when you eat, it's now saying, okay, time to empty. We need to make space for some more food now. That's kind of why regular meals kind of lets the body know, hey, food is coming in regularly, we're moving regularly, let's move some stuff out. Let's get some stuff out to make some space. So regular meals would highly recommend. And if you go back and watch my video, if you're struggling with feeding yourself regularly, I talk about a concept that I wouldn't say I learned it, I just started to notice it more in my body because of somatic practice. There's this thing called interoception. Interoception is, let's call it internal perception, your ability to perceive internal sensations such as, am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Do I need to pee? Do I need to poop? Little basic things like that. Can I feel my heart rate? Can I feel my heart rate racing? Do my legs feel warm? Just internal sensations. People who are neurodivergent might be really good at numbing out those internal sensations and turning them off. So you might not know that you want to pee or that you're hungry or that you want to poop until things are very, very loud. Paying attention to those internal sensations can help you to know from much earlier when you're hungry, when you're thirsty, so that you can then eat on time. So through somatic practice, I was able to figure out when I was hungry and actually eat on time. But you might not start there. If you don't know when you're hungry and you're frequently missing meals, then I would say to set a timer from breakfast. Okay, 4 hours of breakfast, I will eat lunch. And then of course, don't snack in between. So this regular timing of your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner, with the spacing of about 4 hours apart, should help to keep things moving regularly and alleviate the constipation. Hope that makes sense. The next thing I want to talk about, this is actually how I got the idea for this video. I was making a drink and I put this thing in there and I was like, oh, actually I was sipping it on my way to work and I was like, oh, this will help with XYZ. I should make a video about this. And that's how the idea for this video came about. And this thing I'm going to talk about is a culinary herb or a culinary root, and it's ginger. It's ginger. Ginger is that girl. Ginger is really good for all things period, and it's also good for all things gastrointestinal. And the reason for that is because ginger has these compounds that make it prokinetic. Prokinetic meaning pro is for, kinetic is movement. Ginger is a gastrointestinal prokinetic agent. Translation, it makes things move along more and move along more quickly in your gastrointestinal tract. So remember that because of progesterone in the luteal phase, things are Your smooth muscle is more relaxed, which results in things moving much more slowly and resulting in the constipation. Ginger helps to stimulate that peristaltic movement. It's prokinetic. It helps your stomach to empty. It helps your intestines to move along with the peristaltic wave and can help to alleviate constipation. This is the same reason. Drink some water. Yeah. So this is the same reason why ginger helps to alleviate nausea. There have been studies done on the use of ginger in helping with nausea that's associated with chemotherapy. And they found that when you start using ginger in a dose of actually a dose doesn't matter because we're going to get into it later. When you start using ginger 3 days before chemotherapy and you get things to start moving along much more quickly, the stomach starts to empty more quickly. And the stomach being full is one of the major signals of nausea. Once the stomach starts to empty, intestines start to empty, it really helps with the sensation of nausea. And it takes some time to work. It takes a few days to really get things going. And that's why the studies have found that usually helps 2 to 3 days before chemotherapy. And the dose is about 1.5 grams, which is about 500 milligrams. There's little capsules of ginger that you can take 3 times a day before a meal. And that's the dose specifically for nausea and vomiting with chemotherapy. We can extrapolate that and use more if you're using it for the purpose of constipation and also for the purpose of menstrual issues such as pelvic pain or painful periods. You can probably up the dose a little bit more. You can take up to 5 grams per day, and it doesn't have to be fresh ginger. It can actually be dried ginger. Dried ginger is perfectly fine. So last week when I went to the supermarket, I knew that I was in my luteal phase and that this week I would be late luteal, and so I bought a bunch of sachets of dried unsweetened ginger because I used to keep fresh ginger in my home. And I found that every single time I bought fresh ginger, because I knew in my mind, intellectually and theoretically, that ginger is really good for periods, I just would never go into my fridge and peel and cut the ginger and then boil it. To make ginger, you have to do a whole decoction, which is where you boil the root for a good while. Honestly, ain't nobody got time for that. I'm lying. Sometimes I have time for it, but often the ginger would just spoil, fungus would start to grow on it and it would dry out. So no need to fear. You don't have to use fresh ginger. You can use dried ginger. That's perfectly fine. Just buy some dried ginger powder. It should be very affordable wherever you are. Or if you're fancy, you can dry the ginger yourself, which I don't know how to do that. Get somebody else to do it. I don't know how to do that. So yeah, I got the idea to buy some ginger at the supermarket last week because I figured that ginger is very good to use around the time of my period. And then earlier this week, I was making a recipe with the ginger. So instead of just making ginger tea, I decided to combine it with some organic cocoa powder, which is locally sourced here in Jamaica. And I was like, this might be a good source of magnesium, which is also good in your luteal phase, but that is not the focus of this video. And so I was making some hot chocolate basically with the organic cocoa powder, and I decided to just throw a sachet of ginger in there. So I made this kind of spicy hot chocolate. Very, very delicious. If you're craving something sweet closer to your luteal phase, you can make a homemade spicy ginger hot chocolate mix and it just hits the spot. The ginger will help with the prokinetic movements to help with constipation. And plus, ginger is good it's a very warming herb. It's good for circulation in general, peripheral circulation, as well as pelvic circulation. So it's good for stimulating blood flow to your pelvic organs, which makes it good for pelvic pain, painful periods. So if you find that you have something else that might cause you to have pain before your period, endometriosis, adenomyosis, PCOS, uterine fibroids, or if you have a general sensation of congestion that makes you have cramping or pain before your period, it would be a good idea to also start having ginger, maybe once or twice a day leading up to the period. It can help with the menstrual cramping. So that makes this herb kind of perfect for the whole constipation thing, as well as for the pelvic pain. It's also good for nausea. So if you get nauseous in your late luteal phase, then this will help with that too. Perfect little herb for women's issues. And then the final principle I want to talk about is ensuring that you're getting movement. And you don't have to be doing a HIIT class unless you're built like that, unless you have enough energy for a HIIT class when you're late luteal. I personally don't. In fact, I don't have energy for HIIT in general. I'm not there again. I'm not there yet. Maybe in the future, when I build some more resilience, I could do some HIIT. But right now, that's not for me. It's not for me, and that's okay. But I would recommend gentle movement when you're in the late luteal heading into the first part of your menstrual cycle. Think about it this way. If you keep moving, you keep things moving. So a good time to have some gentle movement might be right after you eat dinner. You can take a walk, or you can do some yoga. People like Pilates nowadays. Pilates does not look gentle to me at all. Whatever it is, any form of movement that you can do, especially after your meal, will help things to literally move along. You might notice that after you have a meal, you take a walk, you might have that same sensation that, okay, I just ate, I need to evacuate my bowels. Or you might not have eaten, you might just start walking. Walking like provides this internal massage to your organs. You might just realize that while walking, you think, oh, I need to use the bathroom. Sometimes the physical movement of you walking gives you enough help to get things moving along. So I'd really recommend that even if you're feeling very low and tired because you're late luteal, yes, rest more if you need to, but you should actually be prioritizing movement. Whatever type of movement that you can tolerate, do it and do enough of it. And this will also help with improving pelvic blood flow anyways, which will help you with your menstrual cramps. So don't skimp on movement. Don't skip it and don't skimp on it either. So in recap, in summary, I wrote them all down here, but I didn't need to. I feel like I'm just looking down at the book now. Fiber, but everybody knows that. Everybody knows that, but I explained it to you in a way that I think will help you to, instead of just piling on fiber and think, oh, why am I not pooping? I want you to do it strategically. And then in addition to fiber, I want you to have regular meals, ideally regular meals with fiber in them, because you want to be consistently stimulating your GI system every 4 hours or so to know that, okay, she has fed us, it's time to do our job, let's keep things moving. The next thing is ginger, which would be good in the dried form, in a capsule format or in a tea format, or if you're feeling fancy and if it's available, you can do fresh ginger. Bonus point if you mix it with cacao or even cocoa. You can make a drink or a snack that has high amounts of magnesium and other things too. I'll have to look that up before I... there's other health benefits. There's like flavonols and stuff in cocoa powder. But that was not the point. That was not the point. Ginger and hot chocolate, ginger and cocoa powder together make a very nice snack that you can have in your late luteal phase to help to provide magnesium, to help to satisfy your sweet tooth, and to help to improve your constipation by getting things moving along with the ginger, and also by it improves your menstrual cramps. But I feel like I'm stumbling over my words, but I'm not going to cut this out because I don't have time to edit it. So ginger will improve your constipation, and it will also improve your pelvic blood flow, which will help with your pelvic pain and your menstrual pain. And then the last thing is to be regular with movement, because you need to keep moving to keep things moving. And this is the backbone of how I approach constipation in the luteal phase. It's not a biohacking thing. And I hope you don't approach it as trying to hack your body into getting a poop out, but to understand that there might be lifestyle changes that you need to make consistently over and over to support your body, because physiologically it is different when you're in your luteal phase. So with that understanding, you then know that, hey, I can do this to support my physiology. I can do this to get things moving a little bit quicker because it might be helpful. Not because your body's doing anything wrong, but because it might be helpful. So I hope this was helpful for you. If you notice that you're constipated any at all before your period, let me know. And if there's anything that you do, if there is a practice that you have that helps with constipation before your period, I would love for you to share it with me. And if you try any of these, I'm sure you've tried fiber, I'm sure you've tried exercise, but try the ginger and try the regular meals. Try it and let me know if it works. I would love to know in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.